Ginger, that spicy taproot from South Asia that we simply can't get enough of. But what can we do when we run out of space in our gardens to plant it? Or maybe we live in an apartment or condo and planting ginger in a garden isn't even an option. Well, fortunately, ginger loves to grow in pots and containers. But not just any pot or container will do. So join me in part 1 of this 2-part series where I show you the specific potting requirements for growing your own container ginger. Join me as I take you right from tuber all the way to harvest. And it starts right now. Successful container ginger is all about pot size. There's a specific set of requirements to allow your ginger to flourish in a container environment. Many different pot sizes will do, but let's look at the minimum and recommended sizes to grow maximum ginger. Being shallow rooted, a 12-inch depth should suffice all around. As a minimum for diameter though, aim for a pot size that's at least 16 inches across. This will allow those horizontal rhizomes to stretch out. Now, to really give large ginger tubers and fully planted pots all the room they could possibly need, shoot for a diameter of 20 to 24 inches if possible. Today, I've decided to grow ginger in these fabric grow bags. I've found that ginger tends to go really well in these bags, and the sides don't heat up like regular nursery pots do. This can be a problem where sometimes the roots can actually get burned. As a force of habit, I always line my pots with a layer of newspaper on the bottom. Whichever pot you choose, begin filling it with a quality organic potting mix. You can buy any commercial potting or container mix right off the shelf. They work just fine, but if you're like me, you can make your own as well. I'll throw a link in the description below on how I make my own DIY ultimate potting mix. Check it out. Fill your container about 80% full with whatever mix you choose, and pack it down slightly to eliminate any major air gaps. Before we can plant, let's soak that soil. Ginger has an extensive root system, and the soil being moist gives each and every root and root hair the best chance to establish themselves. The easiest way to do this without destroying that nice fluffy soil structure is to soak the entire grow bag for about 2 hours. Now, potting the actual ginger can be done in 2 ways. The easiest way if you live in a warm climate is to simply place that ginger tuber right on the surface of that pot and then bury it about 1 inch deep with that same potting mix. However, if you live in a climate with a finite warm season or summer, you're going to want to get a head start on your container ginger crops. You gotta sprout the rhizomes early. It's not at all hard, and you will have the benefit of knowing that each and every plant is going to live, avoiding that huge waste of soil on the tubers that fail to sprout. Pre-sprouting your ginger is fairly simple, and I've covered it before in my growing ginger video. I'll throw a link in the description below. Essentially, you choose the youngest, freshest tubers available and place them in 1 inch of warm, moist growing medium. I soak my tubers for a full day to really hydrate them, but you don't have to. After you've spaced out the tubers about 2 inches apart, cover them with about 1 inch of that same growing medium. They're going to need to be put in ideal warm greenhouse conditions, usually about 85 Fahrenheit or even warmer. Within a week or so, viable shoots already begin to form. You'll know pretty quickly whether or not your ginger tubers are viable. Again, you can see the benefit of pre-sprouting them. Do note, however, that shoots and roots may not sprout at the same time. In less than a month, both the shoots and the roots have exploded, and they need to be moved on to proper soil and growing conditions. Even at only 3 weeks, you can really see the head start that these guys give you. Plus, there's almost zero chance of the plant failing at this point. There's very little downside to pre-sprouting your ginger rhizomes. Potting the pre-sprouted roots is super easy. Simply place it right on top of that moist soil, just like you would the unsprouted tuber, and then fill in and around the young plant with that same potting mixture. Do take care, however, not to snap or break any of the new growing shoots. They can be quite brittle at this stage. Still, easy stuff. Bury that rhizome with no more than 2 inches of the potting mix and press down firmly around the plant to keep it nice and snug. Not too hard, just firmly, like you care. Looking great, and we're almost done. With this much bare soil to soil depth ratio, it would simply be criminal not to mulch. We have to mulch that top layer to moderate temperatures, prevent moisture loss, and allow for the ease of top watering. Any organic mulch will do. Here, I'm just going to use a 50-50 mixture of dried shredded leaves and grass clippings. Make that mulch layer at least 2 inches thick, and we've successfully planted our first container ginger. Right on, and now we can take that celebratory first watering that is the ultimate in gardener satisfaction. Hey, let's quickly do a couple more while we recap the video. With container ginger, the pot size is paramount. We need about 12 inches of soil depth, but beyond that is actually not necessary. Ginger roots and rhizomes really grow horizontal. This is good because potting soil isn't cheap. With ginger, it's more about the square footage than the volume or depth. Always pre-soak the soil before planting. And if you live in an area with cooler winter months, pre-sprout those ginger roots to get a head start on the growing. Within a month, your ginger will be ready for planting. Again, this is done by simply placing that young plant right on the surface of the pre-filled pot, and then filling in and around it with a quality organic potting or container mixture. Take care not to bust any of those small growing tips, as each one will become an entirely new section of the ginger plant. And the more sections of ginger that you have growing, the more tubers you're going to get for harvest at the end of the summer. Compress the soil slightly around the young plant, and that's a perfectly potted ginger. Let's quickly burn through another one. As you can see, I'm messing with this sprouted ginger for unknown reasons. For some reason, I'm removing parts of the soil here. Don't do this. Let the roots escape the root mass and find their own way. Ginger plants are pretty heavy feeders, so don't hesitate to use the richest soil you have. We want big foliage and even bigger root systems. You can amend the soil with additions such as alfalfa meal, canola meal, eggshells, oyster flakes, and even rock phosphate. Ginger plants love that stuff. If you're doing a few different pots, experiment with a few different amendments. With this much bare soil, you have to mulch. The evaporation rates on these guys will simply be too high if you don't, and you'll be watering daily to keep the plants alive, constantly diluting that soil of nutrients. That's not good, and the plants will suffer. Having said that, make sure the plants are good and soaked right off the bat, and you likely won't have to water again for 2 to 3 weeks. Container ginger is super easy, and anytime a plant excels at growing in pots, it's nice to have the option to take advantage of it. Stay tuned for part 2 of this series where we look at advanced growth, maintenance, and care of the potted ginger, as well as the final harvest as summer comes to a close. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. If you're getting value in this and the other series that I'm doing on YouTube, hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons if you'd be so kind, and I'll see you in the next video.